Welcome to this week's show. I got a spinning setup and a bait casting setup, and I'm going to explain the difference between the two. So we're going to start things off here with the spinning setup. So here's what the spinning setup looks like off the bat. This is your rod, this is your spinning reel. It's going to sit at the bottom of the rod, and your eyes here are going to sit on the bottom of the rod as well. It's a pretty simple setup. Most fishermen get started using a spinning setup growing up. One of the things with the spinning reel is it's more of a finesse type setup. Whether you're using a Ned rig, shaky head, drop shot, or a lighter inline spinner, something that doesn't have much weight, you're going to want to use a spinning setup, just because it casts easier with the lighter lures. So if you're looking to fish a finesse type bait or a lighter inline spinner or a little crankbait, something like that, you're going to want to go ahead and use a spinning setup. You're going to have much more success with that than with the next setup I'm going to talk about, which is the bait casting setup. Alright, so here's the bait casting setup. As you can tell, quite a little difference here. The reel is going to sit on top of the rod. Your eyes are going to be on top of the rod as well. So with a bait casting setup, if you're going to be more of a power fisherman, what I mean by that is you're going to be using a lot of moving baits, whether it be spinner bait, crankbait, any type of a jig, whether it be a finesse jig, swim jig, top water, anything that is moving quick and you're constantly reeling, you're going to want to use a bait casting setup. Now, with the bait caster, it's a little more difficult to cast than with a spinning setup, and we'll dive in deeper on another episode casting both of these. But if you're looking to power fish, whether it be crankbaits like I mentioned before, any type of moving bait, you're going to want to use this setup. That's the main difference. The bait casting setup is more of a power fishing setup. The spinning setup is more of a finesse or a lighter, like I'm talking real light lures. Like I said, a little small inline spinner or a little tiny crankbait, something of that nature. That's going to be a better setup for you. So that's your tip for this week's video. I got a lake down a little bit that I'm going to go walk to and use both setups and see if we can catch a fish. Stay tuned. All right, here we go. Making our way up to this lake here. I got a bait casting setup. I have a squirrelbill crankbait tied on. My spinning setup, I don't have anything tied on yet. I wanted to take a look and see what the conditions were here on the lake. Never fished here before, so we'll see what happens. If anybody has a question regarding the different setups, feel free to drop a comment in the comment section, and I'll be answered to the best of my abilities. First backlash of the day. Although this is a shallow diving crankbait, probably only 3 to 5 feet. There's a fish. Oh yeah. Look at that little guy. Got a nice face full of hooks. Just got my line all wrapped up now. This little guy. First fish of the year though. Let him go. And And now he's left me with this, a nice twisted up mess. So I'm gonna work on this, and when I get it fixed, I'll turn the camera back on. All right, we're back, folks. Back, we got one fish in so far, and I was just about ready to explain the crankbait. So it is a shallow diving crankbait, probably 3 to 5 feet. Even though it does dive down 3 to 5 feet, we are fishing pretty shallow, and there's weeds coming up from the bottom. So to avoid, you know, snagging them weeds, you want to keep your rod tip high, keep it up in the water column above the weeds. That way you don't run into the weeds and snag weeds and waste the cast. And then vice versa, if you were fishing deeper water, to get the crankbait to dive down a little bit deeper, you can go ahead and stick the pole in the water, get it down a little extra couple feet. Just a little tip when fishing crankbaits. Even though I got the rod tip high, I'm still kind of hitting some weeds here, and that's okay. Just fish actually will react to that when you do hit weeds, and you knock that crankbait or whatever bait you're using off the structure, the weeds, rocks, whatever. That usually will get a reaction bite as well. But you don't want to throw it out and run it. You don't want to throw the bait out and just crank it in and have it just bulldoze weeds, because that's not going to catch any fish. You're going to either want to stay above them or just nick them and rip them off as you're coming through. All right, made it to spot number 2. And I already got a backlash. And this is the kind of weeds here you're talking about. You know, some type of grass down there. I'll make a adjustment here on the reel real quick. Like I mentioned before, future video I'm going to make showing how to cast a bait caster and a spinning reel. So stay tuned for that. So first impressions, a little bit of a steeper bank here. See bluegill. Bunch of bluegill right here. Kind of got like a little rocky shoreline that drops down. Nothing on that second spot, so we're gonna move down the lake here and see what else it's got to offer. All right, spot number 3. Really shallow. Definitely more shallower than spot number 2. So it's kind of like a point here. So we'll see. And there's a backlash. Gotta love them backlashes. And with the theme of this episode being the difference between spinning and bait casting setups, the poll question for this week's episode is, what do you prefer? Do you prefer a spinning setup or bait casting setup, or do you have no preference? drop a comment down in the comment section. Let me know. For me, I don't have a preference. It would be more geared towards what I'm fishing. And what I mean by that is what lure I'm fishing. Obviously, I have a crankbait here today. I'm not going to put it on a spinning rod. Although you can. A heavier duty spinning rod reel setup. But you can. But for me, I'm going to go baitcaster. When I'm fishing crankbaits, or like I said, like I mentioned before, any power fishing type lure. But when I go to this little small inline spinner here, I'm going to tie it on to the spinning setup, and I'm going to use that just because it's lighter. If I put that on this setup here with the 40-pound braid, it's not going to cast very well. Being from shore as well, I'm trying to cover as much water as I can, so I mean, if I tied that little inline spinner on this bait casting setup, I'd probably only be 10 feet off the shore. Spinning setup is easier cast for beginning anglers. Bait casting is more of an advanced type setup. I'm curious what you guys think. Leave a comment down below, let me know. All right, we are down all the way on the other side of the lake now. Made a pretty considerable move. I'm gonna stick here with this little inline spinner. I see some bluegill here. All right, that's gonna wrap up this week's episode. Overall, a pretty good morning. We did catch that one fish early in the morning, and then after that it was kind of just a bunch of casting. Hopefully you guys learned the difference between a spinning setup and a bait casting setup. You saw me out there using both setups. If you didn't learn anything, hopefully you enjoyed this week's video. We'll be back at it next week. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and also to drop a comment down in the comment section regarding your response to this week's poll question. And once again, appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you guys next week.